Welcome to tonight's North College Hill City Council meeting for January the 3rd, 2023. We will start our meeting as we always do by standing for the prayer for NCH City Council, and then we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. God our Father, we are all your servants. We trust in your mercy and love. We trust also in your guidance. Direct the meetings of this council of North College Hill to make good decisions for all the people who live in our city. Give all the members of this council wisdom and insight to know what is best for our city. Help us to be fair and just in all our decisions. Bless us all to do the very best we can. With your help and guidance, we pray this in your name. Amen. Call this meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Good to see everyone here for the kickoff of the 2023 session. I hope we're all excited.
As always.
All right. Mr. Hedger, when you are ready, please call the roll.
Dukestein.
Present.
DeWall.
Here.
Underwood.
Here.
Alexander.
Here.
Zorb.
Here.
Blythe. Anderson.
Here. Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I make a motion to excuse Ms. Blythe.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Ms. DeWald, second by Ms. Anderson to excuse Ms. Blythe this evening. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Dukestein.
Yes.
DeWall.
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Zorb.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you. You have tonight's agenda.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. DeWald to adopt tonight's agenda. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Dukestein.
Yes.
DeWall.
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Zorb.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you. You do have meeting minutes from the regular meeting on 12/19 and the special meeting on 12/28.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the 12/19 and 12/28 of 2022.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Ms. DeWald, second by Ms. Anderson to approve the minutes from the 12/19 and 12/28 meetings. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Dukestein.
Yes.
DeWall.
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Zorb.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you. Communications, Mr. Hedger.
Thank you, Mr. President. For communications, the only thing I have is the council agenda for 2023. I did create this over the weekend, so I did want to provide that to council. I'm not sure of the exact procedure for the calendar, but I did want to provide it since it was brought to my attention.
I do believe we need to review it and vote on it.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson.
does that then need to be moved into legislation, or do we just do it now?
It can just be a motion.
Yeah, it can be a motion now, or we can move it and do it in new business. Either way.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 calendar for council.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Anderson, second by Ms. DeWald to adopt the 2023 council calendar. Any discussion?
Mr. President.
It was a tie, so I'll start with Ms. Dukestein.
If I just could have a second, I hadn't had an opportunity to look at it. I just want to look at it. No discussion though yet.
Ms. Underwood?
When you say the council calendar, do you mean this council and committee meeting schedule?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Oh, meeting docs or something like that usually? Mr. President,
Mr.
just a
Hedrick?
helpful note, I did use the Federal Reserve's holiday calendar. Figured that's what would be appropriate. And then next year it is a Excel format to where if you update one date, it'll update all of them to the correct dates. And if it's on a Monday, it'll move it to the Tuesday.
Man.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Are you ready to proceed, Ms. Dukestein?
Yes.
Mr. Hedrick, please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is council committees, starting with City Community Development and Recreation.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have not met since our last meeting. Our next meeting is going to be on January 9th at 6:30.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Yeah, thank you.
Budget and Finance?
Yes, our last meeting was a special meeting on December the 27th. And we were able to push through the budget for 2023. And our next meeting is January 9th at 7:30.
Thank you, Ms. Dukestein. Next up, Rules and Public Policy.
Thank you, Mr. President. During our Rules and Public Policy meeting, we actually discussed the 2023 budget, answered questions, and I believe at the very least, we figured out what issues we have with the budget. So that's all we discussed.
Your next meeting would then be,
The fourth Monday in January, which, according to my handy dandy calendar, is
23rd.
23rd.
January 23rd.
Thank you. And Public Safety?
Thank you, Mr. President. During the public safety meeting, we also discussed the 2023 budget. And we also discussed the cleanup ordinance as well. And the next public safety meeting will be January 23rd, 2023. So 23.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Does anyone have any ad hoc reports this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to the administrative reports, starting with the mayor. Good evening, Ms. Nichols.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President. I would first like to say Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you had a restful New Year. It was pretty quiet at my door, so, and just to say, welcome to a new year. I'm excited about this new year and new beginnings, new opportunities. I'm looking forward to working with each of you, and let's make some things happen this year, 2023. And I know one thing that I wanted to mention is I do know, and I apologize, Ms. Dukestein, but I know this question was asked several times, what was our carryover? So today I found out it was roughly 700, I believe, and 47,000. That was our carryover. So that's what was told to me today. So if anything changes in between there, I'll let you know, but I don't expect that it should. And that's all I have.
Thank you. The next three agenda items are the city administrator report, the law director report, and the finance director report, and we have none of those people present this evening, so we'll move to call of members, starting with Ms. Dukes-Dean.
I would like to say Happy New Year. It's just been a long year. I wanted to thank every council member and every person that continued to come out to the budget meetings. They're not easy meetings, but we made it through it, and we'll be able to further continue our efforts to having a sound budget for 2023. So thank you very much for the extra time. You are appreciated, and I know that they're not easy. What's I have here? And I just wanted to give credence and prayers to the Hamlin family for everyone saw in the Bengals game yesterday. And there have been so much debate I saw on social media, just people talking at work. And I know for me, I'd like to publicly say they administered CPR and they defibrillated him back to life to get him to the critical state that he's in. I'm proud of Cincinnati and the Bills to cancel the game or, postpone the game in order to observe that a game is not worth someone's life. So I just wanted to mention that and say prayers to their family. That is all.
Thank you, Ms. Dukes-Dean. Ms. DeWalden.
Thank you. A Happy New Year to everyone as well. I hope your new year came in as smoothly as mine did, except for the noise in the neighborhood with the fireworks. So we can't leave that alone, and. So, but also, I agree with Ms. Dukes-Dean, the Hamlin family. What a horror. And I am not a football fan, and that's the night I decided to sit down and watch football. So prayers to that family and all those involved, and UC Health did a remarkable job.
Thank you, Ms. DeWalden. Ms. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to say Happy New Year to everyone. Looking forward to a spirited new year with my council member colleagues. Also, I would like to send out prayers to the Hamlin family. I was watching the game, didn't really understand what I was watching, but I am super proud. I didn't know what I was seeing at first, just because people get hurt all the time, and I'm kind of was confused at all the tears and the kneeling, but once I understood what was happening, I was super proud of the crowd for not being obnoxious, for being kind of quiet, very subdued, praying. I was very proud of all the players, very proud of the medical personnel, proud of my city, and how everybody has responded to all of this. And I would also like to send out prayers for T. Higgins, I think I'm saying his name right. This was just a horrible accident, certainly not his fault. And I want to go, on record saying that. It's just, so I'm praying for him as well. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Underwood. Ms. Alexander.
I would like to say Happy New Year as well. And I'm excited for this upcoming 2023 year and the new things that North College Hill has in store. I'm prepared to be a part of it. I am a football lady, and I love my Bengals, so I have my Bengals gear on, and my husband's a Browns fan, so it's always a house divided. But I want to send out a prayer to the Hamlin family, praying for them. I was proud of Cincinnati as a whole coming together, separating, the game, and real life, coming together and praying. Proud to be a member of, UC Health, just really jumping in, #1 trauma center, and just keeping up in prayers, the whole team, both teams, because when you're a part of something like that, you can't help but to be shook and to be, your whole outlook on life and, your career of choice has to be, it has to be shaken and, thought to be reconsidered. So I'm just sending prayers out to everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Ms. Zorb.
I'd like to say Happy New Year. I am sitting here with a heavy heart. And obviously, there's many perspectives to this, but Damar Hamlin's mom is living her best life. Watching her son play an NFL Monday Night Football game. And within 30 minutes, she's being... She's being rushed to an ambulance because her son had to be brought back to life from a defibrillator on the football field. My heart breaks for that family and for all the players that had to witness that, and for all the citizens, the football fans that had to witness it. And shame on you for anyone who said otherwise, that that game should not have been played, because it should not have proceeded. I'm sorry. Sorry for my emotions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zorb. Ms. Anderson.
I would also like to say Happy New Year to everybody. I'm really proud to be going into this year with all my fellow councilwomen and our strong government. I also want to send my condolences to the Hamlins. That was tough to watch, and I'm a big football fan too, and so are the rest of our family. And a lot of both of my sisters were there, and I'm proud to say that my sister's a rad tech at UC Hospital, so I know that they're in good hands when she's there. But I just can't imagine how horrible that is, and I'm just really glad that our city was respectful and our fans were kind and peaceful and showed Hamlin the respect that he deserved. But if you're wishing to do something active with your grief or with your condolences, he has a fund for a toy drive that is found all over on Facebook, I'm sure, and Twitter. But it's been raising a lot of money, and it's a pretty great way to send some love and best wishes his way. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Yes, Ms. Zorb.
may I tag along to that? I know he does have that toy drive that he sponsors. I'd also like to point out that I heard that there are a lot of spam fundraisers out there. So if anyone is looking to donate, please make sure it is a legitimate site. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zorb.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
on that same note, for security, the local channels, news stations have been advertising to how to donate. So my recommendation would be to at least contact your local TV station and get the website or whatever information it is you need. I think if you try to go to social media, you're going to fall into that pitfall of bad stuff. So, thank you. I'm finished.
Thank you, Ms.
Promise.
DeWald. All right, next agenda item is remarks from the audience, and there is no one here in the audience, so we'll move on to an executive session.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn into executive session for the purpose of discussing the potential salary and possible hiring of an employee.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein.
I'd like to second that.
Motion by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Dukestein to move into executive session. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWall,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you. We are adjourned into executive session.
Oh.
All right, we will bring this meeting back into session, returning from our executive session, so that will bring us to legislation.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson.
do we need a motion to exit?
No.
Nope, okay, sorry, never mind, carry on.
Mr. Edger, would you mind reading the?
Yeah, sorry,
resolution?
excuse
Thank
me. First reading resolution number 1, 2023, a resolution requesting the county auditor to make advance payments of taxes.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I'm just checking something. Okay. All right, next item is further remarks from the audience as it pertains to legislation, and there's still no one in the audience, so we'll move to old business.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWalt.
I'd like to discuss with council super quick, if we could, any immediate plans we have for looking at this budget again and making sure that we get it right. Any ideas? That's how we ended it when it was put through, and I thought, we can't let too much time go by.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I agree with Ms. Dewald.
We can't have that.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein.
just my 2 cents, but I feel like if we have, in lieu of some things we talked about in executive session, if we just kind of put a pause, I mean, we're not making any immediate things that are egregiously taking us outside of just everyday functions. So we have some kind of experts coming in to put eyes on it. I don't,
Mr. President,
2 cents.
Ms. Anderson.
I'm thinking, we at least want to change part of the finance budget, possibly soon. So maybe could we take it back to committee and maybe discuss that? And then kind of leave the rest, because I agree with what Ms. Dukestein's saying, but I do know that there are some things that need to be looked over kind of immediately.
Okay.
Does that satisfy you, Ms. DeWald?
I guess if we have our finance meeting next Monday, and we can
Correct.
discuss some of it then, not the whole thing. There's a few items that I would like to bring up. Thank you.
Any other old business? Move to new business.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein.
I actually have for new business to email me things that we need to get back on the budget and finance agenda, because I know that there were some things we kind of put a pause on. We need to go back, so I just wanted to remind everybody so that I can get that agenda going and get back on some things that we kind of just paused on to do the budget.
Mr. President?
Ms. Anderson.
I know last year around this time, we talked about, and obviously there are no new council members that would come with a election, because we have one new-ish, but she's been here long enough to know our craziness. But I know last year in January, we talked about just asking if anybody wanted to change seats or committees or anything like that. I don't know if that wanted to be opened in case anybody had strong feelings that they wanted to air out.
Mr.
I
President?
was going to bring that up, Ms. DeWald.
The seating arrangement only changes after an election, so that only happens after an election is made. You just don't change them in the middle of a term. Unless, rules are meant to be broken, but I'm just saying that's really odd.
Right, so there is something in the charter about organizational meeting every year
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
by the
For
10th.
committees, right.
But our committees are all currently filled, correct?
That I'm aware of, they are.
I mean, if we need to have an organizational meeting, I was going to actually suggest that we do it at the end of Finance Committee on Monday night
Mr. President?
with an 8:30 time. if we could be done by 8:30. Ms. Anderson?
I don't have any issues with the committees. I don't know if there's a need to have an organizational meeting unless some other people have grievances I'm not aware of.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
the other item that we could look at would be council rules.
At the organizational meeting?
Yes, sir.
Mr. President,
If there were any topics there that people wanted to discuss.
Ms. Dukestein?
just to clarify with Ms. Zorb, are you saying that we could talk about the organizational portion at rules? Public, is that, what were you saying? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Please, Ms. Zorb.
We could discuss council rules in the organizational meeting. If there were any changes that anybody would like to make in the council rules, they would be discussed at the organizational meeting.
Mr. President, I think that we should have at least a 15-minute conversation. I will try to end our meeting earlier, and we can take time to do or either add that to my agenda.
So, actually, Ms. Nichols, I'm going to ask you, because you've done this in the past, it has to be its own meeting, correct?
It has been its own meeting. It's been done as a committee of the whole meeting in the past, not necessarily at a committee organization meeting. So it was done as a committee of the whole meeting. My suggestion, I'm sorry, I think you all know this, and I don't want to be redundant. I'm not sure, Ms. Alexander, did you get a copy of them?
No.
So you may want to, someone may want to send her over the latest copy of the council rules so she can review them. But it's generally done as a committee of the whole, where you would instruct it.
So my other question then, because I'm not sure, what committee of the whole, does
Committee.
everybody have to be present? Because
So
we're currently down a member beyond the 10th.
Now, there have been meetings where every member could not come. So it's sort of like, I would hate to call it a cross meeting where you can't go to one meeting and talk about it. You can't go to this one. So the committee of the whole, every committee comes together to discuss the council rules. She's been excused, so I don't think that it would be an issue if she was just not here.
We could set a committee of the whole meeting for 8:30 on the, I'm sorry, what's that date again?
The 9th.
The 9th.
And so during a committee of the whole meeting, if you don't know, you take the notes, you give the
Correct,
report.
yes.
Yeah, so,
Mr. President, are you guys opposed to coming at maybe 5:30 as opposed to 8:30? I mean, personally, I'm a single mom. My kids, the little one's bedtime is 9:30, so I don't want to start a meeting at 8:30 particularly.
I'd be fine with 5:30. Is it 5:30 a problem for anyone?
Or you guys can do 8:30 and I can excuse myself at 9.
I'd rather come in, Mr. President,
Ms. Alexander?
I'd rather come in earlier, 5:30 or 6 or whatever.
I'm sure you know, but Mr. Hedger doesn't, he doesn't have to be here.
Correct. That's why he's smiling.
I'm not on any.
All right, unless somebody is opposed, then let's set it for 5:30 PM on the 7th, 9th. I'm sorry.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
does it have to be an hour?
It doesn't, but I guess, Ms. Zorb, are you anticipating lengthy discussion regarding rules? You brought up rules.
I am not.
Okay, so we want to say 6? 6 PM.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Zorb?
might I even suggest to my fellow council members, if there is something in council rules that you would like to discuss, that you send it to your fellow members ahead of time, that at least the topics, so that we can already have an idea what's like agenda items. That would be awesome.
Mr. President,
Mr. Hedger?
to hold a special committee meeting, you would need to have a motion. to have that meeting.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson?
I'll make a motion to hold a committee of the whole special meeting on January 9th at 6 o'clock here in council chambers to discuss council rules. No,
Organizational meeting.
sorry, to have an organizational meeting.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Ms. Anderson, second by Ms. Underwood to have committee of the whole meeting on January 9th at 6 PM here in council chambers for an organizational meeting. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWall,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed, 6-0.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. Nichols?
if I could just suggest as well that if you guys don't have a current copy of the charter as well, because we know sometimes they bump heads. So when you're reviewing your council, your rules of council, that you compare whatever your changes are, if any, that they line up with the charter.
Thank you. Any other new business?
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I will second that motion.
Motion by Ms. DeWald, second by Ms. Zorb to adjourn. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWall,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed, 6-0.
Happy
Mr.
New Year,
Hedger, are
everyone.
you
This
able
meeting
to
is
post
adjourned.
that?